Hey everyone, it's time for another patch rundown. This is our first one for TFT Fates. Hope you guys have been enjoying it so far. But yeah, let's talk about what's coming in patch 1020. So the state of the game right now is in a really good state. There are lots of comps that can win, lots of things that do well, really unique ways to play the game. That being said, it's not perfect. We're seeing some things underperform quite a bit. We are seeing the power balance not quite be in the right spot. So we're going to be taking a light approach with this patch, and our goal is to just nudge things in the right direction, focusing primarily on buffing things that aren't working, with only a little bit of nerfing things that are out of line. But our goal with all of these nerfs is not to remove them from the meta. So for example, if you see a set nerf, we still want set to be a very powerful 5-cost you're excited for, maybe just not like an automatic put in every single comp every time. So... all right, so let's jump into the changes. So first thing to talk about is the combat recap upgrade. So starting in patch 1020, you'll be able to click one of these buttons at the bottom of the screen, and you can change it from damage dealt to damage blocked. Damage blocked is taking armor and MR and looking at the damage they prevented. This is much better than damage taken, because damage taken is just the opposite of damage dealt, and it really doesn't matter because it just has a bunch to do with their health. So damage block is a better resource. And then shielding and healing. So you can see how much shielding and healing was done. So for example, in this fight, Thresh and Janna did a lot of shielding and healing, but Thresh did more. So cool. Okay, one of the things we're seeing on live right now with the combination of the Chosen and the level 9 changes is that 3-starring 4 costs is a bit too easy. And in fact, even 2-starring 4 costs is a bit too easy, especially at level 8. So we're making one change to the rolling odds at level 8, which is that 4 cost goes down by 5%, and that's put back into 2 cost. The other thing that's nice here is it allows you to still try to chase after your 3-star 2 costs at level 8. So this should be a nice shift and should make 3-starring 4 costs just a little bit harder, which is what we want. They're a little too powerful for how easy they are to acquire right now. Okay, on the trait side, Cultist 3 is a little strong. Basically, if you get an early Cultist, that's a free win streak. So we're just pulling back its power a little bit. Galio loses 200 HP and 25 AD. Again, should still be good, just a little bit less powerful. Dusk 6. Dusk 6 is currently a very big power spike, giving your entire team 30% more spell power and your Dusk units another 25 on top of that. So we're pulling that down a little bit. It's been overperforming just a bit. So the ally SP at 6 goes from 50 to 40. And then the total SP for the Dusk units goes from 125 to 110. So this should bring Dusk comps in line when you hit that 6, and not make the spike quite as big, considering how easy it is to get, considering there are 5 Dusk units plus Chosen plus Spatula. So it's actually one of the easier ones to hit. On the opposite, Keeper... we're seeing Keeper 2 and 4 do very well. They're very strong. But no one really runs Keeper 6. So our goal with Keeper 6 is it should be so strong, in fact, that it basically is almost like damage immunity for 8 seconds. You should be very powerful if you're running Keeper 6. It could also open up comps where maybe you spread out and try to keep those shields, not get hit by the weakness of having to group up. So some options there. So Keeper 6 gets a buff. Mage. Mage is one of the comps we're seeing underperform quite a bit. There is a viable mage comp, the reroll mage comp we're seeing, but it's hard to hit, so we want mages to be a little bit more consistent, and one of the ways is that struggling in the early game because of that big damage nerf that they get at that 3 mage. So 3 mage is getting buffed from 70 to 80. This should make 3 mage a much more exciting option and willing to consider, because now you're basically saying at 3 mage, your mages are doing 60% more damage over their 2 casts, so pretty big buff there. And then Spirit. Spirit, it took a while, but eventually we got to a point where Spirit 4 was kind of dominating the later half of the patch, to the point where there are so many variations of Spirit 4, whether it be the Shade variation, TJ's Sharpshooter variation, even just in general for, like, just have Ahri backline. So yeah, so we're just bringing that down a little bit. So it goes from 90 to 80. Should still be good. We want those comps to be good. They're supposed to be good. Frontlining Ahri is a cool, viable option. Go ahead and keep doing that. So just bringing that power down a little bit. Fortune. Fortune as a very fun trait. Very fun, but very difficult to get to work. So we're taking one step for now to try to make it a little bit better. And if this isn't enough, we'll do more in the future. But what you can see is for Fortune 3, we've increased the approximate gold value at all levels and removed the all gold options from the later end, because nothing was worse than pulling off that 9 win streak and just getting 55 gold just straight up. Ugh, boring. So all the all gold options are gone. Now you always get something cool. In addition, we've added spatulas that can drop from 5 loss on, so there's new combinations in there. So yeah, look forward to some new combinations, and you can kind of see the table here. The table is the approximate gold value. So again, approximate because we have our own definition for what we value a Nico at and an item at. I'm sure you'll disagree with them. But you can see it's pretty big buff across the board, and even running win streak fortune now is 3 gold a win. That's pretty good. In addition, 6 fortune got some buffs as well. The average value went up just a little bit, and again, same thing. We removed the all gold drop, so you're always going to get something unique and good from 6 fortune. We've also let spatulas drop from 6 fortune as well, and then we added a very rare jackpot. You'll have to wait and see what that is. Good luck. So. Okay, 1-cost champions. Diana, very strong. Nothing wrong. No need to buff or nerf necessarily. But Diana 1 and 2 may as well not exist. Running a Diana and a Diana 2 in an assassin comp is kind of a joke. So Diana 1 and 2 are getting a buff. 1 extra orb per summon, so they get to do a little bit more damage. Same with Lysandra. Lysandra 1 and 2 may as well not exist. You'd never consider putting them on your team. So small spell damage buff for Lysandra 1 and 2. Again, this only affects 1 and 2. If you're running Moonfire and get them to 3-star, they're just as powerful as they were before. No change. Nami, one of the weaker champions in the set right now. So Nami is getting a 0.5 second duration buff to the stun. It's now one of the longer stuns in the game. Really good at countering assassins. But also at 3-star, it goes up a full second. So 3-star Nami is now stunning for 4 seconds. That is a big stun and should make 3-star Nami or chosen Nami worth considering now. Vayne, across the board, kind of a sharpshooter that you ran as a trait bot. So we're buffing her attack speed to 0.9. This should open up some new options with Vayne, let her maybe be a more exciting carry, consider something like an early Shiv, things like that. So hopefully Vayne feels a little bit better. And again, we're going light touch here. Vayne might need more after this, but trying to keep it light for now. Annie, similar boat. Annie 3 is actually really good. If you can get Annie 3, you're in a really good spot, whether it be like Gunblade, Tanky, whatever. I've seen Zerat versions that are good. But Annie 1 and 2 are kind of underperforming a bit. So we're just buffing Annie 1 and 2. So the spell damage goes up 50, which means the shield goes up 100, because the shield's always double the damage. So Annie 1 and 2, a little bit more viable. Should also be a buff to Fortune and Mage, who both need it. Aphelios, kind of like Lysandra and Diana. Aphelios 1 and 2, kind of underperforming. So Aphelios 1 and 2 just get 1 extra second on their turret duration. Nothing crazy here. Just if you want to run them in a Hunter comp, it shouldn't feel quite as bad. Hecarim has been kind of underperforming as well. Hecarim is like a trait bot, basically. You run him in Elderwood, you run him in Vanguard, but that's it. You're not really excited to make him your carry or your chosen. So he gets a buff to his healing at 2 and 3-star. And again, going light touch. So if he needs more, we'll go from there. However, on the not light touch side, Jax, who is one of the champions who is in both Divine and Duelist, which are both underperforming a little bit. So Jax gets a fairly big buff. His attack speed goes up quite a bit, and his mana goes up quite a bit. So this should open up some really cool options with Jax chosen, where you make him tanky, something like Gunblade, Bramble, and Dragonclaw, and then he can just dodge to infinity. So Jax should be slightly more exciting now, and that should open up some more Divine and Duelist possibilities. Jinx. This is a bit of a confusing one, and overall it is probably going to be a nerf. What this is Jinx's spell is now an actual spell instead of an auto attack override, which means it goes through all of our normal spell rules, which is like she casts the spell, she's mana locked for 1 second while she casts that spell, and then goes back to auto attacking, during which time she can then gain mana. What this actually means is the Ginsu version is probably going to feel a bit of a nerf here, because you used to just be able to keep on attacking super fast, gain mana super quick, and get right back to that permastun. Now, no matter how fast you're auto-attacking, you're going to be mana locked for 1 second. Jinx's spell should have always been a spell, so this was a necessary change to fix a few other bugs. And so yeah, hopefully if Jinx ends up being too nerfed because of this, fine, we'll adjust. But like I said, it's really only a nerf to the Ginsu version. Veigar, this is one of the bigger changes of the patch. Veigar is going to be our premier backline assassin, if you will, for mages. Mages get a bit of a buff here, but instead of lowest health percent, which basically led to Veigar always just kind of shooting 1 or 2 shots at the front line, he'll now go for the lowest total health. Meaning, for example, let's say you're running up against a Brawler Ashe comp, guess who Veigar is going to be targeting? That Ashe. So this will allow Veigar to be more of an interesting carry, can deal with some of those backline champions that sit back there safely, and should open up some more options. So kind of looking forward to seeing how this plays out. However, in exchange, we are nerfing Veigar 3. The jump from Veigar 2 to Veigar 3 was really insane, so pulling that down. Xin Zhao gets a bit of a buff as well. Goes from 0 out of 50 mana to 0 out of 30, meaning he can get his dual state very quickly. And in addition, his spell now counts as an auto attack, meaning it heals from Bloodthirster, not Gunblade. So now you can actually build Bloodthirster, get the lifesteal back from the spell, as well as the empowered auto attacks that come after. So this should make him a little bit more of a buildable carry. We'll see how it goes from there, but yeah. Yuumi. Yuumi 3 just isn't quite worth building, so we're just upping the scaling on both the healing and bonus attack speed at 3-star. So small buff for Yuumi 3. Alright, Riven. We don't want to do the thing where we accidentally double nerf champions, so we already nerfed Dust 6. Riven is not getting a nerf. However, Riven 3 is clear in a way the best 4-cost 3-star, so Riven 3 is getting nerfed. We are nerfing Riven 3 25%, which is a pretty big nerf. Still want her to be good, still want her to be worth pursuing, but maybe not quite the 1v9 auto win that she has been in the past, so bit of a nerf there. And again, that combined with the reroll changes should make Riven 3 a little less of a terror. Shen, probably the most underperforming champion. And you can see I have old art here. It's missing the Mystic trait. But Shen is getting a big buff here. Hopefully to buff both just Shen in general, but also the Ninja trait. So Shen gets more armor, gets a big mana buff, so he'll be able to cast more often. And if you happen to get Shen 3, that shield and taunt duration goes all the way up to 8 seconds. So that giant shield should last a very long time. So I think we'll hopefully see some more really tanky Shens doing a lot of cool stuff, being able to cast more often. So hopefully we see that. All right, 5 costs. Same thing. Lee Sin, kind of underperforming right now, gets a big buff. Going from 50 to 40 mana is a big buff. Blue buff Lee Sin, going to be really scary. So we want to see a lot of the 5 costs compete on some of the level others are, so Lee Sin gets a buff. Set gets a big nerf. This is a mana nerf. We want those Set slams to be really strong. He's supposed to, those dunks are supposed to be big, exciting moments. But he's kind of doing it too frequently. We're seeing him dunk 3, 4, 5 times a fight. We don't want that happening quite as often. So pretty big mana nerf here. From what we see, even though this is one of the bigger nerfs we've ever had, he's still really good. The free built-in GA is just kind of nutty. Yone, same thing, kind of underperforming, so it gets 20 mana off his spell. Should allow him to cast more often and be a little bit more threatening. And then lastly is Zillion, kind of a nerf here, because now Zillion can no longer ult himself. So this prevents you got your assassins on Zillion, and the first thing he does is ult himself, keeping himself alive, and then you win the fight from there. If you can target the Zillion and kill him, that is his counter. We want that to be his counter. So that's how that works. Now, that being said, if you're running 2 Zillions, cool, they can ult each other. On the item side, pretty light changes overall for now. Ludens is just getting a bit of a buff, because not that many people are building it. Same with Shiv, bit of a buff. And then Sunfire, clearly a very strong item. Probably will remain strong even after this, but just a little bit less strong. And it's going to now fall off a bit harder in the late game. So if you want to build it for your early game strength, fine. But you are giving up that item in the late game. Late game fights are much more explosive, and so you're not going to get as much free burn as you did before. Finally, we have a bunch of bug fixes. Aphelios' turrets will now die exactly when he dies instead of lingering for up to 0.24 seconds. This prevents the weird cases where you kill Aphelios, then the turrets kill you and you lose the fight. That sucks. Set will no longer casually walk back onto stage, only to disappear when knocked out by Lee Sin. Keck. Yone can now properly cast his spell while disarmed. Cool. Thresh, Warwick, and Xin Zhao's click boxes have been extended to better represent the size of the units, so that should help with item places. If you still have problems with other champions, please let us know. Nami Bubble CC can no longer be overridden by other knock-up effects like Lulu. This was pretty bad for mages, so this should be another buff for mages. Vi can now cast her spell at long range with Rapid Fire Cannon. This should be a nice buff for Vi if you want to try the RFC build. Should be kind of interesting. Azir soldiers no longer have 5.0 attack speed, which could cause other champions to target them with their spells. Sweet. I think it's set to 0.5 now, so should be fixed. Lee Sin will no longer knock out units who are immune to CC. The way it was working in game was Lee Sin couldn't knock somebody that wasn't at the edge with QS, but if they were at the edge, it was failing to check QS and they were still getting knocked out. So that is a fix. And yes, it is a buff to QS. QS is a very powerful item right now. But that is how we want Lee Sin to work. And then lastly, we fixed a bug with Jeweled Gauntlet and the Assassin trait, which caused spell crit to basically roll multiple times, which was giving slightly more crit chance than intended. So for example, 2 Jeweled Gauntlets was increasing the spell chance to crit to 88% instead of 65%. This should be a slight nerf to the double Jeweled Gauntlet you're seeing. Jeweled Gauntlet Assassins should be a little bit worse now, but it's now working as intended, and math-wise should be good. So that's going to do it for now. Again, this is meant to be a light patch. The end result of this should be a lot of the same comps are still viable because they're fun and they should be. But it should be a lot tighter race based on who got better items, who placed better, who did better things, and should open up a few more options like Mage, maybe something with Jax, things like that. So hopefully we see more, and we'll continue to push in that direction. So yeah, so that is it for 1020 and Fates. Give it a try on PBE. Otherwise, it goes live Wednesday, September 30th. Is that right? Yeah, September 30th. So, all right, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, as always, take it easy.